Good day, people. I am Dr. Anthony Martin, coming to you again uh, with another session on relationships by way of our new book. Certainly, we're glad to have you. We're glad to be able to speak to you again on such a critical issue. Coming by way of the Kingdom Culture Fellowship Ministries and Leadership Development Center. Again, good day. So before we move forward and pick up where we left off from the last session, certainly again we want to introduce our new book. It is Man's Biggest Nemesis, The Woman God Intended. It's on Amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, any bookstore online. You will find our book. Perhaps maybe inside or maybe some paperback copies, maybe perhaps inside the stores itself. I'm not sure completely, but we are certain you can get this book. It's a good read, powerful read. This book is entirely about relationships in terms of how man and the woman should exist on earth. It gives you a lot of powerful level of knowledge, greater understanding, greater wisdom. So, with that being said, let us get to the meat and potatoes. In our last session, we were speaking an example or using as an example in terms of relationships, using the brother Papoose and the sister Remy Ma in terms of how their relationship came about and somewhat ended. And again, I point out that when you have iconic people, an iconic brother, an iconic sister coming together in a relationship to be one, those relationships, those iconic relationships are very rarely successful relationships. Those are type of relationships where there has to be a greater knowledge, understanding, and wisdom on the people themselves. Papoose was a brother or a brother like him. We don't necessarily have to keep it on him, but a brother like him. And a sister like Remy Ma. All men and women, in that case, you first need to know yourself. You first need to know how you are. You first need to know greater of you and what your desires basically are in terms of the kind of woman. Many men go into a situation pretty much not having this information that they need to bring about a woman of their desire, elevating her, to a platform that both can exist in and both can move to higher heights in. Most relationships, like again, say just basically start out from the physical. A brother takes a peek at a woman, he sees what he likes, and he go in that way, and don't have a clue on the mindset of the woman. Don't have a clue on how the woman responds to things. Don't have a clue on her philosophy, her way of thinking, her philosophy, her attitude, her behavior, or her actions. Don't have a clue. And see, there's a principle that I live off of, where your thinking determines your attitude. Your attitude determines your philosophy. Your philosophy determines your behavior, and your behavior determines your actions. And so all things start with the thinking. And most men and women don't have a clue on each other in terms of how they think. But the upside coming from the women, women are driven in the practice, in their thinking, to communicate. Any brother who have a woman in their life today or been with a woman, that's the one thing that most women, really pull on men with or about. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Communicate with me, communicate with me, communicate. And what they're literally saying is they want to know the greater knowledge of you, the greater understanding of you, the greater wisdom of you. I'm talking to the men. And knowledge is the knowing of all things. Understanding is the direction of all things. And wisdom is how all things work. So women are the first to be driven to wanting to know these things. Now, coming from the man's side, and I'm a victim of it. Not a victim, but I'm guilty of it myself in my, past relationships. That, with me, or with men, period, lacking in knowledge, we get this thought that the women are, trying to get information on us to get over on us, and we're not too reluctant to give out so much information to the woman, because she'll probably use that against us, and that's the thought. But when you come into the presence of a woman with high level potential of you all coming together in a powerful, unified relationship that leads into perhaps marriage or just a long-term, beautiful relationship, those things you have to recognize. And I'm only speaking this way because I've been through enough experiences where I did not take that course of action and recognize afterwards, coming out of the relationship, I decided to take an assessment of myself. And not to get far off my point, men, one thing you have to do, any of your brothers, any men who coming out of a bad relationship, you cannot just jump into another relationship. You first need to take a step back and take an assessment of yourself, and not take an assessment of the other person or the woman. Don't go into or come out of a relationship still pointing fingers at the woman and what she did. You need to go into come out of a relationship now dealing with yourself and take an assessment on what role you played in that relationship. Because it's easy for one to say, oh, the woman did it, like Adam pointed to the woman when God came on the scene. But it's not easy for a man to sit back and take a mirror or take a look in the mirror, like Michael Jackson would say. Look at the man in the mirror and do an assessment on yourself. Ask yourself questions on what you did wrong. What role did you play in the demise of the relationship that you had with the last woman that you were with? And once doing that, that's a starting point to help men get beyond carrying that same foolishness that took place in your previous relationship. It helps you to keep that foolishness from following you in the next relationship, and so forth and so on. And as you do that, that's something that you have to maintain. You just can't just do it one time and then think you got it all. No, you don't have it all. But to get back to my previous point, when you find yourself in those settings of a woman seeking to communicate, and in your mindset you think she's trying to get information on you to use it against you, you can't operate in that mindset because you're already starting out on the wrong foot. You're already inviting foolishness with that mindset. You got to learn how to come away from that mindset and be that man that God basically said in the storyline of the scriptures from the beginning of Genesis, where he instructed man to have dominion over the earth. That's a powerful statement. That's a powerful instruction. That's a powerful principle. Because to have dominion over the earth means all things in the life of man and in all things in the earth, man has the ability to rule and regulate, to be above and beyond. Now, it didn't say have dominion over the woman. It said have dominion over the earth. But moving forward, when you are entering into a relationship, and I'm speaking to both the entertainment community, the iconic community, the wealthy, and down to the poor, to the wealthy. Let's put it that way. I'm speaking to all. In a relationship, our biggest issue is each one fighting and battling for a position. What's the position? The position is who gonna rule. And when you are coming together for the purpose of unity, it should never be a question on who gonna rule. It should always be, if there's a rule to happen, one must rule with love. And who is the one? Man. It is the man that must rule with love. If a man is operating from a Christian standpoint, from the religion of Christianity, and you are wrapped up into biblical principles, then from the biblical principle standpoint, sure it says in that man is the head of woman. But it's not saying you rule the woman. It's not saying you are to take control of the woman in the manner of her being some sort of slave. No. And even from another aspect, I get a lot of emails and questions and things of that nature about the two chromosomes that's inside of man, the Y and X. And so men have come into a great deal of confusion and being manipulated in their thinking that the double X chromosome is for the brothers to become women. And that is not the case. We're going to touch on that and just leave it alone. That's not the case. The X and the Y is in the man for one purpose and one purpose only. The X is there not for the man to become a woman, but for the man to know how to handle a woman like a crystal, tender, compassionate, empathy, in a nurturing manner, showing her love. Then there's the question of submission. The woman's supposed to submit to the man. The woman does not submit to the tangible man. The woman does not submit to the physical nature of the man. Man, in his physical appearance, must get out the way in a manner of forcing the woman to submit. Submission only comes by way of spiritual energy. And what is that spiritual energy? We are not, men and women, I'm speaking to both, we are not the physical nature of what we see from a physical, tangible outlook of things. We are spiritual energy. So from the expression of spiritual energy, that's where the submission comes in at. And in that expression is the expression of Elohim. Now some say God, but I'll touch on this and move off from it. God is a Greek term. God is not the original name of the supreme being. The Greeks established that term. But before the term God, it was Hebrew, Elohim, El, supreme being, universal prime creator, ancient of days. But in the end, it stated, I am who I am. So to get off of that, as we move into that nature, men, we, in our expression of spiritual energy, we are not expressing the physical, tangible nature of us. We are expressing what is called love. And so, in the manner of a submission from the woman, she never submits to the physical aspect of man. She only submits to the high level expression of love that flows out from the man. She never sees you, in other words, men. You get out the way. When she looks into your physical direction, she should only see the expression of love flowing out of you. And by way of seeing the expression of love, then from there, she can make her assessment as to what she falls in line to. So, to get back to the relationship aspect, see, two men, well, rather not two men, but the man and the woman, when both are climbing through the ranks of life, see, many of the issues that, or let's just deal with one aspect, one difficulty that comes to mind. One issue is this, and we spoke about it before. It's that battle for position. And both are climbing and going through the ranks of life and seeking to establish a foothold, if you will, in one's life that from a normal standpoint, when it comes to a man and a woman living and standing together in unity, and especially obtaining a family behind this, especially coming to marriage, there has to be one breadwinner. It can't be two breadwinners. In other words, it can't be two presidents. It can't be two kings. It can't be two captains running that ship. Somebody got to step back. Somebody got to fall back and play a different role when it comes to relationships. In a company setting, you can't have two presidents running a company. It ain't working. Somebody got to step back, play a different role. In a ship setting, in an airplane setting, it can't be two captains on the ship and two captains on the plane. Somebody got to play a different role. Somebody got to step back. And somebody have to, both persons, first and foremost, have to understand each one's role. And the issue in relationships is many of us, and I'm guilty of it myself, we never look to orchestrating our relationships in a manner that we put the energy into orchestrating our business or what we do on a job. Many of us can walk out the door of the home, the man or the husband can walk out the door leaving his wife in the home, or she can walk out the same way, and as they walk out the door to a job setting, both are going in a strict discipline to carry out a duty on their job, as opposed or as in connection to the position on their job. See, one could be a vice president on the job. The other one could be manager. But when they are in their mindsets and stricken in their minds to move forward on that job, Whatever position they hold, they are stricken to go and handle and do that position with the greatest of discipline. The greatest. But when it comes to them returning, when it comes to man and woman returning back to the circle of each other, entering into the same space of each other, the same environment, under the same roof, then it almost like in an instant, the mindset of going home with a discipline to strictly carry out their role, their duty in the home is gone. You'll find the man and the woman, if they marry, they're strictly disciplined in carrying out that wedding and speaking those vows and being on point with everything they do. Once that wedding is over with, they go home and go under the same roof and then instantly believe in their minds they don't have to do no more. It's almost like instantly one is supposed to instantly know what to do and fall under the unction of knowing the role, when no one has honestly sat down and drawn out a plan to which both agreed on, and not only drew out a plan, but maintained that plan once being together. And even in a simple relationship, most people ain't going in a relationship with no plan. It's just hanging out. It's just hooking up. And then you learn it along the way. Go to the movies, go to the dinner, and just, or make love, watch a movie together. Spend the night on this one, over this one house. Spend the night over that one house. And that becomes your relationship. And then after a while, that you find yourself spending so much time doing these mediocre things, most men and women then decide, okay, this is a point of marriage now. We've been here 5 years, so we've been doing certain things, and I love you, you love me, let's marry. But no one really got to a point of truly understanding the mental capacity of each other. No one really did their homework and really going in on each other in terms of how the man's relationship, again, as we spoke from the previous session, how one's relationship is with the daddy, the mama, and the family on both sides. No one really got that far. But again, I give credit to the woman. The woman does, in my judgment, from my own previous experience, they do a well-to-do job in seeking to know, having a conversation. And again, I'm guilty of it. I would play a role of not wanting to have these conversations because I felt as though, okay, it's some sneaky stuff going on. And this came from generational practices. And I say generational because I watched my own daddy and uncles and so forth and so on do the same thing. And we, from that aspect, coming up as a young man to a man, we thought that was the way of life. And many of you think that's the way of life. But you have to be or become the kind of man that when you receive a product from a delivery or so, let's say you receive a chair or a table or something, those products don't come together for the most part. Those products come ready to be or needing to be assembled. So then, as the product enters or comes to your home, you take it in, you got to open that box. Once you open that box, in that box is a manual to help you to know how to put that product together. And the amazing part about that whole concept is These things are very much platforms for a man and a woman to focus on and pay attention to, in a manner of using that same concept for a relationship. A relationship is not something because you some genius or you some high-tech professor somewhere, or you believe that yourself to be a teacher or an instructor. Relationship doesn't come in a manner that because you hold such a position in life that you automatically know what to do. No. The best of the best are divorced today. All things come with instructions. And instructions on knowing how to handle your affairs in those areas. And so the subject matter that we really wish to call this segment on today, this session on today, is Rule with Love. And this is a particular chapter in the book. And this is what we are going to be speaking on as we move forward. Different segments of the book and helping and kind of like giving you all insight of what the book is about, what is being said. And for many who purchase the book, these things will give you understanding, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom as you read. And let me go back, and I forget to mention this. For those of you who are listening on YouTube, we certainly ask that you hit that subscribe button and continue to do so as we get more and more into the session. Hitting that subscribe button helps us to know who's who out there and who's really attentive to the listening of this session. And certainly we look for your support as well with Cash App. For those of you who are on YouTube, you'll certainly see the information below the screen, and all other platforms. You certainly will witness as well ways and means in terms of supporting our session here. And so again, we thank you for being here. We thank you certainly for listening in. But there are two examples to continue on. There are two examples that is perfect in use when it comes to iconic relationships, when it comes to relationship period. I've not been a fan of major iconic relationships because, I've watched them just become dismantled all the time. But I look at our brother Denzel Washington and his wife, where Denzel Washington is a powerful, iconic actor. His wife is an actor as well. Samuel Jackson, very powerful, iconic actor. His wife is an actor as well. But from the two of them, and listening to Denzel talk one day in terms of his wife and how things worked in their family, in their marriage, by way of his wife, literally, even though she's an actor and she has all the power and authority to elevate into the acting world like Denzel, she chose to handle the home and keep the home intact. She made it her decision that she was stepping back and making sure that the home was managed well. And that is who the woman is. The woman is a powerful manager. Very powerful manager. And the woman has the most powerful skill set in managing things very well. Even a woman who lacks in knowledge, it is naturally in her to immediately know how to manage her circumstances to wherever she is and to however she flows. And Samuel Jackson the same, his wife. She could very well be on the circuit, out there, heavy like Samuel Jackson, but she too have taken a position to play a different role in their marriage. And the role has basically, and let's say it this way, we don't know of any crises or issues. It's not important to know. But what we see is two marriages from two powerful brothers and two powerful sisters that are managing well to stay unified. And whatever it is that's going on behind the scene, they are handling it in a way that it is not playing out in the public eye. And it's a prime example of two people coming together in a powerful, unified manner, position of life, rank of life, and making a choice. The woman making a choice. Denzel Washington's wife making a choice that this is going to be her role. And that Denzel's role was the breadwinner. And he go out and get the supplies needed for the home. Samuel Jackson's role, the breadwinner, that he go out and get the supplies needed for the home. Bring down to the wife and let the wife handle her affairs to keep the home or the house, turning it into a home. And it's long, strong as a home now. And these are the examples that are beautiful examples of how things work in a proper relationship. Everybody's not going to take that pathway of doing heavy duty research from a mental standpoint. But this is the purpose of these sessions, to help you to know and understand and get the wisdom to do so. Give you different principles, give you different way of thinking on your relationship. Even those who are 5 or 10 years in, you still have the power to hit the reset button. Hit the reset button. And then from there, learn how to play a different role. It's too many men not playing a proper role in a relationship with the woman. Too many men are literally giving up their position as a man and switching roles. Switching roles in a manner that making the woman the breadwinner instead of you, brothers. Because the problem is, by law, there's one thing that a man gives a woman upon marriage. There's one thing a man gives a woman that the man has to go back to the courthouse and get it back from her. And it ain't the ring. She could throw that away any given time. That one thing is your last name, men. And when you give the woman your last name, for her hosting your last name and having your last name documented on government documentation, that clearly says you are responsible for her, for having your last name. You don't give a woman a last name and then go off like y'all are boyfriend and girlfriend. And she do her thing and you do your thing. No. You are technically responsible for her, men. And my ex-wife used to say things to me in a manner of taking care of home. That was one statement that I used to hear from her a lot. And I used to take that and hear her say, take care home, thinking that it meant literally the home itself. But once, unfortunately, we separated, we divorced, and as we departed from each other, put it that way, I decided to sit down and do an assessment on myself, as I said earlier. And I did an assessment on myself to determine what role I played in our departure. And one of the things that I can say when it came to that particular statement, take care home, it was really, what really came to mind after a while rather, it wasn't literally just taking care of the home, because the home belongs to the woman. She is the manager of the home. She is the one that has the proper skill set to go into a home and put it together for the comfortable ways and means of everyone who would live under that roof. She is the one. My position, men, our position as men, is simply to supply her, supply the wife, supply her. And I can't speak of girlfriend and boyfriend, because it's not you're not under law when you're when you're boyfriend and a girlfriend setting. You're not under law. You're just under obligations or desires. But under law, it is your position to supply her everything she needs to handle and manage the home. And that's actually what take care home means. Making sure the wife is supplied with everything she needs to take care of that home. Upon agreement of things, agreement of the position of things. Because these days, the woman is driven on career, and a man also is somewhat driven on career, but men, like I said, are dropping out and giving up their positions as men. And so most men, you find most men just not even in a career setting. Most men are just chilling, hanging out at the house, trying to find something to do. But when you're in a relationship that you all have a strict, strong agreement on things, one of your agreements should be that the man supplies the woman. The husband supplies the wife. Now, for a simple boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, you all can get into the practice of learning how to live as husband and wife. Learn the nature of taking care of home, supplying the woman what she needs to bring about a good life, a comfortable life in the home, if you all are living together. Even if you're not living together, you still can get into a practice in both places. If the boyfriend has his own place, and the girlfriend has her own place, you still can interact in both places and get into a practice in a manner of husband and wife, and learn the nature of how that thing works. Rule with love is not ruling with an iron fist. You rule with an iron fist, you bringing forth destruction. Rule with love is not you, man, standing in your physical appearance over the woman. Rule with love is you, man, getting out of the way physically. And from your physical appearance, every expression of you is flowing with love towards the wife or the woman of your life. And when she sees you, she don't see your physical appearance. She sees the expression of love flowing out of you. Now, most women don't like the word rude, because that's that liberational stuff. They get into this, I don't care for this. I had one sister tell me when I was explaining that, I don't like the word rude. Well, that's a word. That's a term that's in society. So because you don't like it, that don't mean it's going away. And in the scriptures, in the book of Genesis, when God spoke in terms of the punishment for Adam and Eve as they fell in sin in the garden, God used the word rule. Man shall rule over woman. And the woman's eyes will be for her husband only. So, again, if you prescribe to Christianity and the biblical text, then that's something that is still at hand. Most people are falling away from the biblical text, and most people are leaning back on ancestral spirituality, Hebrew teachings, Hebrew terminology, and not the European Jews who have hijacked Hebrew terms, hijacked the Hebrew terminology, period, hijacked the Hebrew culture, period. That's not, and I'm speaking only from the empire and kingdom people. Now, people as a whole, all nations as a whole, that term, regardless of who hijacked it or not, is still a term, and that's still an originality of terminologies. The original way of life is of that of Hebrew. So moving forward, as you men operate, you have to, and I mentioned this before, this term before, this principle, you definitely have to learn how to learn. And I'll go over that again. Learn how to learn is a process that exercises discipline, strict discipline in one's decision-making process. So before you learn anything, before you learn how to read, before you even learn from the reading of a book, before you learn from exercising a skill set, before you get into the beginning process of any learning aspect of things, you must learn first discipline in your decision-making process. Meaning what? In other words, you have to be strictly disciplined to decide to read that book. You have to be strictly disciplined to decide to exercise that skill. You have to be strictly disciplined to decide all things before you get into any of those things. And most of us, and I'm not going to say us, I'll say you, because I've learned to become that. Most of you are not disciplined in your decision-making process. Most of you allow things to get in the way and manipulate your thinking and move you in a way that just destroys all things or anything that you even try to begin to access, learn, practice, etc. And so from that area, that's something that has to maintain too. You just can't exercise that principle and then walk away from it. Anything that you do in life is not for 5 years, 10 years, or 100 years. It's until you go to the grave. And so when you're in this relationship, you're not in a relationship for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. If you choose this woman to be your wife, men, if you choose the man to be your husband, women, the vow that you stated in the time of marriage, standing before the priest, you stated until death do us part. So that means this thing is maintained or must be maintained. All things in it must be maintained until death do you part. There's a principle that says the road of success is under constant construction, which means success does not just stop at some point and that's it. Bill Gates is only successful in becoming a wealthy man. Jeff Bezos is only successful in becoming a wealthy man. But both are divorced, which means they're not successful in holding a long-term marital relationship. That's one area they're not successful in. Both are divorced. So it goes to, you know, a principle from the scriptures as well. How could a man gain the whole world and lose his own soul? So, understanding the nature of relationships and the principles of it, the processes of it, the ranking file of it. Men, you don't get to get it. You don't get to get in a woman's life and bring her to a point of being accustomed to you, loving you, giving her heart to you, and you turn around and choose another woman to enter into that same relationship, but in a secretive manner. In other words, what is the purpose of accepting a woman as your wife and you turn around and go cheat on her? It makes no sense. Don't get married if you feel as though you're going to cheat on that wife. Just because that wife has come to some point of you not having a desire for her, so forth and so on. Don't be married if you know you're not done with having desires for other women and you believe in your mind that you will at some point cheat. Don't get married. Don't bring that woman into your life to destroy her and destroy her desires and destroy her heart. And that's the foolishness when it comes to men. You brothers get into this mindset. You men get into this is the part that shows me that you men have not at all done any type of research. Now, I wouldn't even say research. Any type of practice on yourself of being a proper man. You've done nothing on yourself to be a proper man. That's why I say you got to know you. If you want to be a thoroughbred brother or man, period, the first point of being a thoroughbred proper man is to know every aspect of you and what not to do as opposed to what to do. Don't put no one else in a position of foolishness because you still got foolishness in you, man. If you're not finished with the world, if you're not finished with the streets, if you're not finished with playing around out there in the streets, don't bring no woman in your life and bring her into your foolishness. And the same thing with you, sisters. You know you ain't done out there. You know you still a freak. You know you still want to hang out and do all this extra stuff. Don't bring a man in your life. Don't allow a man to come in your life. Stay out there with your foolishness until both of you all are done. And when you are done with that foolishness, then you work on unity with one another. And this is the reason why so many marriages and relationships are falling apart. Because men refuse to stay away from food. Men don't want to give up their cake and ice cream and eat it too. Women don't want to give up their cake and ice cream and eat it too. They don't want to give it up. And you're hurting each other. You're hurting each other.